Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're zeroing in on something pretty crucial: how to move past just, reading stuff to actually using it, especially for leadership. Think of this as getting you from just well read to well applied
Yeah,
fast.
exactly. And we've all been there, right? You finish a book, maybe highlight some bits.
Feel pretty good about yourself?
Yeah, I feel like you've instantly leveled up.
Mhm.
But the real challenge is bridging that gap, from the idea in your head to actual tangible results.
That's the puzzle. And today we're digging into it using insights from Victor Lungs. From insight to impact, how applying what you read makes you a better leader.
Eh,
He starts off mentioning something. I totally get that feeling of accomplishment just from finishing a business book.
Oh, yeah, that initial buzz.
You feel smarter, definitely more informed.
Hmm.
But then, well, what actually happens?
It's almost like a cognitive trick we play on ourselves, isn't it? Mistaking that feeling of learning for real change in how we act. Lung's journey, though, it gives us a way through that. And that's what this deep dive is all about. We want to pull out the practical stuff, the things you can use right away. So if you're keen on getting knowledge quickly and making it stick, making it count, this is for you, no matter your role.
Okay, let's unpack that. Lung had this light bulb moment. He was rereading something, and it came down to this one simple question: how will I change my behavior because of this? Sounds basic, almost too simple. But why is that shift from just soaking it in to asking about action? Why is that so powerful?
Well, it completely changes how you interact with the information. It's fundamental. Think about it like watching a cooking show versus actually cooking. Watching is fine. You might pick up tips, but you only get better when you get in the kitchen. Hey, maybe mess up a bit.
Right. Get your hands dirty.
Exactly. That question, how will I change? It pushes you into the kitchen.
Hmm.
You stop being passive. You become an active participant in your own growth. You're not just like storing facts. You're processing them for what you're going to do.
And then he deliberately started highlighting differently, not just what was interesting, but what connected with his strengths.
That's interesting because, the impulse is often to fix our weaknesses first. Why focus on strengths?
Yeah, that's a really common impulse. But focusing on strengths, well, psychologists call it a strengths-based approach. When you build on what you're already good at, you're working with your natural grain, not against it.
Okay. Like planting in good soil.
Precisely. The energy you put in gives you a much better return. You're not constantly fighting yourself. It builds momentum, you feel confident, and that makes the change stick much better. It's just more effective.
That makes a lot of sense. Amplify what's working. And then the next step. This feels like the one that really separates people who just think about change from those who actually do it. He wrote down how he'd apply the lessons, actually writing it out. Oh, absolutely critical. Because writing, it's not just recording. It forces you to think clearly. You have to move from a vague idea, like I should do this, to a concrete plan. What exactly will I do?
Like drawing up a blueprint.
Exactly. A mental blueprint. When you write down the how, you're sort of pre-committing. You're making it specific. And that makes it way more likely you'll actually follow through later. It's not just a fuzzy intention anymore.
And this really shines a light on that common trap, doesn't it? That assumption: I read the leadership book, therefore I am a better leader.
Right. Ling tackles that head on. He says, look, reading is just the start. The real journey begins after the last page, when you start doing things different.
So knowledge isn't the same as skill.
Not at all. Reading gives you knowledge, sure, but leadership, like any real skill, riding a bike, playing piano, it's built through practice, through experience.
Yeah.
You can read all about bikes, but you can't ride until you get on, maybe wobble, maybe fall.
Yeah, I've been there.
We all have. So Lung's point is leadership isn't just knowing stuff. It's an active thing. Doing, changing, refining.
He also mentions getting others involved. External accountability. He shared his list of intended changes, asked for input. That sounds a bit vulnerable, maybe, putting your plans out there.
It can feel that way, definitely. But there's real power in it. Think about behavioral science. Social proof. Commitment. When you tell people what you intend to do, you kind of create this gentle social pressure on yourself.
Like having a gym buddy.
Exactly like that.
Yeah.
You're less likely to skip if someone's expecting you. Plus, getting advice from people who've been there, that's invaluable. They can spot challenges you haven't seen yet, help you navigate.
Lacine also talks about something I think a lot of listeners will connect with, especially early in leadership or just when things are crazy busy. That feeling that learning is a luxury, that you just have to survive on grit and hustle.
Oh, that's such a common feeling. That tension between the urgent stuff right now and the important stuff for the future. And look, grit and hustle are important, but just relying on them, without stepping back to learn and adjust, that can lead to burnout or just running in circles.
Like driving hard without checking the map.
Perfect analogy. Loon's experience shows that making time to learn and apply isn't a luxury. It's strategic. It actually makes your hustle more effective in the long run, even when everything feels chaotic.
He also makes this really sharp point about being able to sound smart, talk the talk, even fake confidence a bit without really getting it deep down.
Yeah, that's a subtle but important distinction. It's the difference between knowing about leadership and knowing how to lead. You can quote theories, use the jargon.
Sound impressive in meetings.
Exactly. But if it hasn't changed your actual behavior, your habits, your responses under pressure, then the understanding is just surface level. And that lack of depth, it shows when things get tough. Real growth means the knowledge becomes part of you, not just something you know.
And through all this, his own view of leadership changed. Right. It matured. He saw it wasn't about having all the answers himself.
Right. It shifted. Less about being the sole authority, more about understanding his own strengths. And crucially, recognizing his weaknesses and figuring out how to compensate, often by building a team with complementary skills.
So, less lone hero, more conductor of an orchestra.
That's a great way to put it. Recognizing you can't be good at everything and valuing what others bring.
Yeah.
That's smart leadership. It makes the whole team stronger, more adaptable, more innovative than any one person could be.
Which links perfectly to his point about lifelong learning and humility. Even when your experience may be quite senior, you've got to keep that student mindset.
Oh, absolutely essential. The world changes constantly. Business, technology, people, nothing stays static. What worked 5 years ago might be totally wrong now. So staying curious, being willing to say, I don't know, or I need to learn more, that's not weakness, it's strength. It keeps you adaptable.
Humility keeps you learning.
Exactly. It opens you up to new ideas, to learning from anyone, anywhere.
So if we tie this all together, the big message seems really clear. The transformation, the real growth, it happens when you apply what you learn, not just when you collect it.
That's the core of it. Action is the engine. Leadership grows from doing, not just reading.
The reading provides the insights, the raw material.
Precisely. But it's the application, trying things out, seeing what happens, reflecting, adjusting. That's what turns that raw material into actual impact, into skill, into better leadership.
And Long finishes by talking about how this is still his process. He's still learning, applying, growing, and being grateful for the people whose ideas helped him. And that final thought, leadership isn't a title.
No, it's earned. Every single day. Through that consistent application, his ongoing commitment shows it's not a one-off project, it's a way of operating. And acknowledging others reminds us to keep seeking out diverse perspectives.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, the main takeaway really is stark, isn't it? It's that leap. From just consuming information however much to actively using it, that's where real growth happens, especially for leaders or anyone wanting to be one.
It really is. Which leads us to a final thought, maybe a small challenge for you listening. Think about one insight. Just one thing that's resonated with you recently. From a book, an article, a conversation, maybe even this discussion.
Okay, got one in mind.
Now, the important part. What's one specific action, something concrete, that you will commit to doing in the next 24 hours to actually apply that insight? It doesn't have to be huge, just one step. Don't let that insight just sit there. Make it active.
Great challenge. Take that step. Thanks for exploring this with us today.
See you next time.